Hi. So, for everyone who is in attendance, thank you for coming and spending some time with us. This is the fourth Kyle and Kupiszewski webinar that we've done. We used to go out and speak in person to lots of people, love getting out and meeting people, and we can't do that right now, at least not in person. So, we're doing this virtually. I'm Jennifer Kupiszewski, the Kyle and Kupiszewski Law Firm. I'm an attorney. I practice elder law. We do special needs planning. Do a lot of work with younger kids, working with families, planning for them. My partner, Emily Kyle, also does a lot of work. And so we've spent a lot of time with raising special kids. And I have here with me today the executive director of Raising Special Kids. And full disclosure, I have been on the board for 6 years now.
You are in your 7th year.
Oh my gosh. Okay. It's been a long time. So organization near and dear to my heart. I'm now the board chair. And so Chris and I, we spend a lot of time together. And I think your story is really interesting and compelling and inspiring, really, for other families. And so I want to hear about your story, give people the opportunity to get to know you. And then also, no one knows raising special kids better than you, I don't think. So want to hear about that from you as well. I will say, Chris, you were a special ed teacher. You haven't taught for a while now, right?
Okay.
You do a lot of community work. You're on the Special Education Advisory Board for 8 years? Panel.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what else? I mean, you're obviously the executive director. You have been with Raising Special Kids, I believe, for 10 years. I think
yes.
you got a plaque to go with that.
I did
You have
actually.
it? Awesome.
Yes, I do. I took it off my wall. Yes, this is the 10-year plaque at Raising Special Kids, and a few of our employees have these, and I was fortunate enough to get mine just last month. July 13th was 10 years for me.
Wow. Hey, we have good swag. You know that? Like, we do. That's nice. Yeah. So I want to start with the thing that I think people don't know, which is, let me say a little bit of housekeeping just real quick. Normally when we do speaking engagements, we tell people where the bathroom is and all of that. Obviously, you all know where your own bathrooms are, so you can take care of that. In terms of questions, put them into the Q&A, and I am happy to address those, or either at the end, or if it fits in what we're talking about, to do that there. If you have any issues with the sound or recording or anything's happening, just let me know in the chat as well. All right, so I want to start with, like I said, what people may not know about you, which is a little bit about who you are, where you come from, your family. What about you?
Thanks. Well, thanks for asking, Jen. And so I'm originally from Oregon. I was born and raised in Portland, Oregon. Stayed there until through high school. Went to college in New Mexico State University for a couple of years. Took some time off, came back to Oregon, finished up undergraduate degree in Washington State. And just kind of bounced around. I actually come from a kind of a long line of teachers in my family. My grandmother was a teacher. My sister was a teacher for many years. She's a counselor now. My brother has a teaching degree and taught some school. So that was kind of, I guess, always in the cards for me. At least I always felt like I would be a teacher. I didn't do that right out of college. I ended up doing a lot of other things, and I met my wife on a trip to Mexico, and ended up spending a year in Mexico with her, and learned some Spanish there in order to be able to communicate with her family and her friends. We came back to the States, back to Portland actually, and she ended up getting a job at ASU. And that's what brought us to Phoenix, Arizona. She was pregnant at the time, and we were talking before we got started that we moved in in early August, right around this time, and that would have been um, 14 years ago is when we
Wow.
moved. So
And I was marveling that you stayed after moving in
yeah,
August.
yeah, yeah. So she began working at ASU. She was pregnant at the time, and our son was born here at Banner Desert Hospital in Mesa. And that coming to Phoenix and starting a life here really provided me the opportunity to pursue education as a career, and that's what I did. I got into a master's program for special education, and was a father to an infant and a husband, and I worked in central Phoenix, where I had the opportunity to speak and practice Spanish on a daily basis. It was interesting, I was in my master's program, and I went to the district that I ended up working for just to apply as a substitute teacher because I wasn't certified yet. And at that time, they were emergency certifying teachers because of the shortage. So I became an emergency certified special education teacher and finished my degree. I mainly worked with middle school students, and they were students who had mainly learning disabilities, reading issues. So I did a lot around literacy, evidence-based reading interventions. A lot of Not a lot of inclusion. More, I would have liked to have done more inclusion as a teacher, but I spent about half of my day pushing into regular education classrooms and about half of my day working with students individually in small groups.
Yeah, and
Um,
you said you were the father of an infant. How many kids do you have?
so we have one child, Jeremy, who is now
The one and
13.
only.
Yes,
Yeah.
the one and only. And Jeremy was he's really what brought me to raising special kids. We When he was about 18 months, my wife was having some concerns about his speech development, and at the time I didn't have concerns. Um, you know, Boys develop slower than girls. He's learning two languages in the home. We try to be real consistent with speaking both English and Spanish when he was, right out of the womb. That was I guess, an expectation or a dream that we had that he was going to grow up to be bilingual. So the AZIP, Arizona Early Intervention Program, a provider came out and did a developmental screening on him at 18 months. And at that time, he did not qualify. He didn't show enough of a developmental delay or a speech delay to qualify for services. So, I was happy. I was relieved. See,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong. That the screener didn't see anything that was an
That's the
issue.
answer we all want to hear, right?
Yes, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Even if you know, right, that it's
Yeah,
probably not right. Yeah.
and at that time, I didn't have the gut feeling that my wife had.
Hmm.
Um, but two events between 18 months and the time that he was diagnosed at 2 happened. One, I had taken a trip by myself. I had to deliver my dad's car to him up in Oregon. So I stopped off at my cousin's house, and he has a child right around Jeremy's age, a little bit older. And the difference in development was really just shocking. And this would have been when Jeremy was probably 21 or 22 months old. So he hadn't been rescreened yet. And that was the first time I really started having that gut feeling, like you just mentioned. And then shortly after that trip, we went to Mexico back to see my wife's family to celebrate the winter holidays with
Hmm.
them. And there were a lot of kids around, and he was around a lot of kids younger than him, older than him. And there was no denying it at that point. There was a very significant delay.
Okay.
And first thing we did when we got home, his 2-year checkup or 2-year well check was right around that time. And then immediately he qualified for early intervention. We started you know, doing the home and community-based services, getting a autism diagnosis from a developmental pediatrician is not easy
No.
in Arizona.
Yeah.
But you know, my wife is somebody who doesn't take no for an answer, and I know there is a place in heaven for the receptionist at one of the offices who, you know, got a call from my wife every single day for about 3 weeks, and
Wow.
we were finally given an appointment on a weekend, and we made time, and he was given a diagnosis of autism,
Yeah.
and that really, you know, started our journey in disability work. She works for an autism provider agency, and I work at Raising Special Kids.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Mhm.
You know, one of the things you and I have talked about a lot of times is, you know, my as you know, my nephew has an intellectual disability, and so went through all of that with my sister and helping her to navigate getting early intervention and preschool and an IEP and all of that. And then later, you know, we were in that terrible car accident, and so, you know, my kids were on 504 plans. You know, my son Michael, because of his traumatic brain injury, and you were a special ed teacher. So what we talked about is, you know, we had all this knowledge that we could draw from, and it was still hard, right? Knowing kind of what your rights are and what to advocate for, and it's still difficult. And so that, I think, you know, for both of us, that's what brings us to Raising Special Kids, right? Is that
Yeah.
appreciation of being able to share that
Mhm.
information and help other families become advocates for their kids.
Absolutely. You know, after he was diagnosed, I found myself kind of naturally helping families, because we did what many families do. We searched for information. We were actually referred to Raising Special Kids by our service coordinator, and my wife became very involved in some of the autism-specific support organizations in the Valley, and we would connect with families, and I would always end up finding myself talking to families about special education, you know, when we were doing social meetups and those types of things. And so that really is, I found that I had a passion for that. I loved teaching, and I continued to teach after Jeremy's diagnosis for about a year and a half. But then when a position at Raising Special Kids opened up, I looked at it, and the job description was just, you know, it was for a family support specialist.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my work was going to be working directly with parents and families experiencing disability, and helping them understand, you know, what their rights were, what their responsibilities were. You know, eventually came to learn, you know, that what we do at Raising Special Kids is empower families to be effective advocates for their children. And it took a little bit of time for me as a new family support specialist to kind of learn and understand. But yeah, it was a great transition, and it also provided me with kind of that connection to other people who had children with disabilities and the full range of disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
One of the programs that we have at Raising Special Kids is parent-to-parent support, and I got that by becoming an employee of Raising Special Kids, and talking to, you know, Vicky, who was right next to me, helped train me, and hearing about her daughter, and all the staff. I could say that about everyone at that time.
Well, I mean, and that's one of the, right. I mean, don't most of the staff at Raising Special Kids have that personal experience, right?
Yeah, everyone that works for us is connected to a child with a disability. Most of us are parents, and so, you know, when families seek support from our organization, there is kind of that immediate connection. While we are a professional organization and we provide support services to families, we're also parents. You can almost hear the tension go out of, I remember this very clearly from my time working with a lot of families, when they understood that you two were a parent of the child and have had to, walk through the DD eligibility process or the long-term care eligibility process. You could almost hear the tension kind of go down a little bit. Because, in those beginning days, there's a lot of phone calls that families have to make. There's a lot of professionals that they get to talk to, and not everyone gets it. So we hope we get it.
Yeah, no, I experienced that in my work as well during guardianships and special needs planning. That I always want to share and say I do have some understanding, right? Because I have my own child who has a traumatic brain injury, and it does sort of just make you like, okay, I don't have to convince someone as to what I'm going through here. They'll get it. So one of the things that I want you to talk about this more, that I think is amazing about raising special kids, and that it's so unique, is the populations really that raising special kids serves.
Yeah, so we're a statewide provider of family support services, and really that's our mandate. We have offices we have staff. We don't have offices anywhere anymore. We're all at home. But we have
this
staff,
is it.
Right. No, we do still have an office. We have staff in Tucson, Sierra Vista, Yuma, staff in Kingman and Tuba City. A lot of staff here in Phoenix in our central location. And, a large part of our work is reaching underserved and underrepresented populations. So what that looks like in kind of pre-COVID times is, going out to community events in rural and remote areas, providing parent training to families in Payson and Sholo and Yuma. Well, Yuma, we have staff there, but we're doing work in Mojave County, all over Arizona, as much as we possibly can. I like to say that we make great efforts to reach all of the corners of our unique and diverse state. That's a big focus of what we do.
And in terms of the types of disabilities, a lot of organizations are disability specific.
Yes.
But that's not the case here.
No,
right?
That's not. Yeah, thank you for clarifying that. So, we serve on paper. I'll give you kind of the tagline, and then I'll go into it a little bit more. Birth to 26 parents and family members with a full range of disability, with children with a full range of disabilities. And what that really means is that we really have a focus on children's services and young adult transition services. And the only eligibility is that the child has a suspected or diagnosed disability or a special health care need. So we do get quite a few contacts from families who just are concerned, like maybe we were at 18 months.
Right.
Hey, something's not right here, or hey, I got a letter from the school, from the teacher saying, they want to have a meeting to talk about their concerns about reading or something of that nature. So a lot of the work that we do is around helping families understand those initial eligibility processes and walking through kind of that fear and uncertainty that something might be wrong with my child.
Right. And I know from my own personal experience, like it's not even just at birth, or can be at any point, because I know that raising special kids was there for me after the car accident, and all of a sudden then I had no kids with special healthcare needs, and then I had two with pretty significant special healthcare needs. So really, anytime, anywhere.
Yeah, anytime, anywhere. bringing up traumatic brain injury, absolutely. That is something that we see, accidental shootings, near drownings,
Yeah.
resulting in lifelong limitation. So yeah, it doesn't really make a difference how you come into it, and it also doesn't make a difference, perceived severity. We are
I'm glad you
here.
said that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We're here for families that are experiencing disability or suspect that they are.
Right. So whether it's a speech delay
Right.
or challenges with the 504 plan
Right.
and someone has diabetes, to all the way to, kids who have multiple chronic,
Yeah.
disabling conditions, right?
Yeah. Total care. Right. So,
Hmm.
and I'm glad you brought up diabetes. That is, something that, a school might look at and say, well, we can make some health accommodations under a chronic health plan, and there's no real need for specially designed instruction or special education or accommodations. And for many students, that may absolutely be the case. And for others, it may not. They might need more support. But if it is a scenario like that, families do have rights, and even if it's a chronic health form through our state statute,
Right.
they can expect to be a part of a team that creates a plan and all those good things. So we try to make sure that parents really have the information they need to be informed on what's going on with their child, not only in schools, but with therapists and providers, with doctors.
Right. All those systems. So tell me what happens. So I call Raising Special Kids because I am concerned about either a service or education. What mechanically happens when you call? Lift the veil for me.
Walk you through the kind of
Yeah.
the intake
Yeah.
routine. Okay, so I'm a parent. I'm concerned that my child. Well, yeah, I'm concerned. I have a concern. I'm a parent. I have a concern. I call up Raising Special Kids. I probably get Jessica on the phone. She probably says something like, "Raising Special Kids. This is Jessica. How can I help you?" And I'll start telling her what's going on, and she will gather. Well, it's kind of the first phase of our intake. So she'll gather, contact information, just basic demographic stuff, and then she'll make sure that information goes into our kind of data collection, what we call the queue, which is a list of families who have contacted us or have been referred to us, and that we need to call back. And then one of our amazing family support staff will, as part of their daily work, they work very much in and out of the queue, is what we call it. And it populates in order of calls received. So I might have to wait a few hours. I might have to wait a day. We've been working really hard this past year on shortening our response time. For years and years and years and years, families could have expected a callback within 2 business days. In this age of technology and internet and parents needing and really deserving timely response, we have shortened that to by the end of the next business day. So if I were to call on a Tuesday at 4 o'clock, I would expect to have a call no later than Wednesday at 4:59.
Well, yeah.
And then,
What if they don't speak English?
oh, well, if they don't speak English, that is at Raising Special Kids, that's not a problem. About 33%, 32% of our staff are bilingual Spanish speaking. If they speak languages other than Spanish, we do have language line interpretation, and we can make sure that we're able to communicate with that family through a number of different ways. um, telephone interpretation is probably the first way. But if we have to set up a time with an interpreter to do some sort of a three-way call, someone that the family is working with or knows, we'll also do that as well.
Yeah. So they get a call back, I guess. So I want to know what happens then, and also
Second
is
part of
anybody?
intake.
Yeah, and is anybody going to ask them for money?
Okay. So second part of intake. So the step one intake is Jessica doing everything that she does, or somebody who's picking up the phone. If it's not Jessica, it might be Chris. There's two Chris's at Raising Special Kids. So the family gets a call back and they have a conversation, with the parent. Jessica got some real topical information in the first call about what's going on. Okay, it's a school issue. Parent has questions about IEP, or the family support specialist has the opportunity to really listen and have a conversation about, what's going on. Okay, so I know it's a school issue, it's an IEP issue, but what specifically has happened? Tell me a little bit more about your child. Tell me a little bit more about, his classroom and his placement. A lot of what we're doing is as family support, is we're gauging the kind of level of knowledge that the family has in the system that they're struggling with, so that we can meet them exactly where they are. If it's a brand new family to home and community-based services, we're going to have conversation about, the role of the support coordinator. We're going to talk about, what the family can do, best practices for communication, what they can expect from the therapists and service providers if they're in place yet. So usually our calls are anywhere from, and I struggle with ever putting a time frame on it, because some calls are 15 minutes, some calls are 10 minutes, some calls are an hour.
I was gonna say, I once watched you on a call for an hour. It was tough.
Yes.
It was a hard. It was a really that was such a hard situation with that family, and it was not the first call either.
No, and that's another thing that I think might make us unique, is that when you call Raising Special Kids, it doesn't ever have to be a one-time only call. There are families that we've worked with for a number of years. They help maybe working through what the early intervention program is and how they can understand and work within that. Then maybe their child goes on to developmental preschool, or has special education services in the school system. We're going to, help that family with their rights under Part B of IDEA, and on and on and on and on. So yeah, some of the calls take a little bit longer than others, and some are shorter than others. I think we try to. 30 minutes is kind of like what we, in a perfect world, as an organization would want. Spending our time really listening, trying to understand, and then, in the back half of that call, turning it to problem solving. And okay, what are, 2 or 3 actionable things that this family can do? What are 2 or 3 actionable things that I, as a family support specialist, can do to help empower this family to advocate for their child? Maybe it's, send the school an email with clearly expressed concerns about, the couple of things that are happening. Maybe it's writing a letter to request an IEP meeting. Maybe it's, there's ad infinitum, right? There's a number of different things depending on the situation that our family support staff are just extremely skilled in helping break issues down into manageable chunks.
Most important, what I love out of that is that you're gonna call, and someone's gonna listen to you and then help you formulate a plan that you can execute, right? And maybe that goes great and fabulous, and maybe it goes terribly, and they can call back, right?
Absolutely. And, we know that the best laid plans sometimes are, and if I'm working with a parent on one side of a situation, um, you know, that's the parent and I coming to a solution about a situation without necessarily having any input from, the other people involved in that situation. So we know that sometimes, even with those advocacy efforts, there can still be challenges. And that's if they do call back, or if we set up a time to reconnect after that initial call. Sometimes, many times, our family support staff do that. Okay, so you're going to go do these things. Let's talk again on Friday. I'll be available at this time. That type of a conversation, to check up and see how that went. And then, look at the situation where it is right then, formulate a couple of things to do. At the end of the day, when we're talking about school, or we're talking about, health insurance, or we're talking about home and community-based services, agreement, or consensus, if it's not found, there are pretty well-defined dispute resolution options in special education, and we absolutely help families understand what those are. You and I were talking about mediation earlier.
Yeah.
Our experiences are different with mediation, but that is a formal dispute resolution option that we talk with a lot of families about.
Yeah. So one of our attendees says the ability of raising special kids to think outside the box to help us in our situation is priceless. And thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that.
Yeah, that's I know my experience with the staff over all of these years really has been exactly that, and we have sort of this back and forth because I'm a lawyer, and so they'll contact me, and they've been trying to help this family, and I'm always amazed at the really creative ideas that they come up with. So tell me we've talked about, they're calling, obviously asking education questions. That's the parent. We have grants and different programs. Tell me a little bit about the programs that Raising Special Kids that are available to families.
Yeah, thanks for that. So I'll start with kind of the Parent Training and Information Center. Parent Training and Information Center is the Arizona's Parent Training and Information Center is Raising Special Kids. And so every state has a PTI. Some states have more than one, depending on their population. But our organization has been that Parent Training and Information Center since 1985 in some capacity. And really, I think what the federal government at the time, IDEA, had just been authorized in the mid to late 70s. And so the first reauthorization of that law came with the additional support, what I like to call technical assistance for parents. Mm-hmm. I think what they found in the first 7 years of implementation was that parents had no idea what their rights were under this brand new law. They didn't know that they could disagree with schools. They didn't maybe fully understand that it was a team-based decision-making process. So parent centers came in and were tasked with providing this type of information training and support to assist families. So that was a big kind of chunk of how we got started. Prior to that, we worked very closely with the Division of Developmental Disabilities to provide parent-to-parent support. That's kind of the foundation of what our organization is. And parent-to-parent is a program we still run today. It's an evidence-based program. Parent wants that parent-to-parent support is delivered by a parent leader for Raising Special Kids, a volunteer. And it's typically two parents that have children that are similar, either in diagnosis or presenting issue, or even age. Sometimes we get parent-to-parent requests for, going through puberty. That's a pretty popular parent-to-parent request.
Imagine.
And really, it's that program is designed to really help with the emotional support piece. The helping to bring families out of isolation and grief over a new diagnosis or a new issue, so that they have the ability to be that advocate. I know that for me, I'll just speak for myself. Receiving diagnosis of autism, and the loss of all those dreams that you thought you were gonna, that you thought were gonna be realized. I thought Jeremy was going to be bilingual, and that was going to be a great skill that he would have. We struggle with speech and language. So, I think that just talking to another family that's been through something similar helps to bring families to a place where, okay, now we can start talking about IEPs, and now we can start talking about, how we want to communicate with schools. We can kind of come out of that grief and isolation a little bit. So got two of them, parent to parent, and I got special education support. Individual assistance is probably our flagship program, quote unquote program. And that's that, connection with a family support specialist, where we're doing that individual problem solving on, what the issue is.
Arizona AZIP.
Oh, yes.
Another one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Early intervention. So yes, Raising Special Kids is the central referral line for the Arizona Early Intervention Program. And what that looks like is we're the first point of contact when a family is referred to the Early Intervention Program. And that really started from the idea that, as the state's Parent Training and Information Center, having families kind of that come in through Raising Special Kids, they would benefit from the family support and the training and the different things that our organization offers. But our role as central referral is to make sure that those families come in, they're I hate to use the word processed, but the referral is processed, that family gets quickly to an early intervention contractor so that they can get a screening quickly or an evaluation depending on what the needs of the child are.
Yeah, and which is so that's such a lot of work. I think in terms of, I don't know that everyone knows that Raising Special Kids also does things like trains other professionals and, does some advocacy and is that parent voice in a lot of places.
Yeah, we provide the family voice in public policy, and we are fortunate to be invited to the table and to ask to be at the table for special education advisory panel or the governor's ASD advisory committee, those types of activities, working with our state systems of care, working with Access to provide parent perspective or public comment on proposed policy. That very much is our role as the Parent Training Information Center and as a family serving organization. A large piece of what we do is work with professionals as well, pre-service teachers, pre-service therapy providers. So these are college students that want to go into the field. We have a couple of different activities designed to kind of provide them an opportunity to hear from parents in a safe place. Here is three parents telling their story here is an opportunity for, you as a future teacher to, maybe ask the questions that might not be appropriate in an IEP meeting when you're sitting across the table from a family. And that was one of the very first activities that I did when I came to raising special kids. I remember I was a couple of weeks on the job, and I got asked to go and present with one of my coworkers and also a parent leader to a class at Glendale Community College. And I fell in love with that activity because I had been one of those kids in the room, learning about special education. So it was really great. And then we worked with service coordinators and social workers and support coordinators that refer families to us all the time. There is a kind of a clause that we have. If we get a referral from a professional, our standard of practice is for a 100% follow-up. And what that means is, okay, Jennifer, you're a support coordinator for the Division of Developmental Disabilities, and you're making a referral for the Tiffany family. So you put that referral in, and Jessica gets it at the office, puts it in our system, and then Rachel calls the Tiffany family and has a conversation with them. Hey, I got your referral from Jennifer, and what's going on? And they talk, and they go through that, the services, the individual assistance. And then at the end of that, Rachel sends you, Jennifer, an email that says, hey, Jennifer, thank you so much for the referral. I was able to connect with the Tiffany family, and we're working with them. Nothing that goes into any detail at all other than to just acknowledge that we did receive the referral, and we either contacted the family or we were unable to contact the family.
Right, so that you have that collaboration, and so families can refer themselves, they can get referred by others, right? It's sort of, okay.
Yeah, they can call us directly. We do have a electronic referral form on our website that both families and professionals can use.
Okay.
So yeah, there's a lot of doors into raising special kids.
Yeah, the door is always open. Although we're not actually at the office, so I want to talk a little bit about how raising special kids has adapted to the pandemic and the changes that have been required, and just how's that working out for all of you?
Well, it's working out. I think it's thanks to the absolute resiliency and great work of everyone involved with the organization that we were able to pivot quickly to provide, as I've kind of described already, a lot of our services are delivered over the phone, individual assistance with families. But one of those that we had to really adjust quickly to was our parent training efforts. And, how do we, when before COVID-19, we would be at the Ability 360 Center in their conference center doing 2 or 3 workshops, 3 or 4 workshops on a Saturday, in person, people coming together, learning about legal options at 18, or learning about IEPs, learning about positive behavior support. That wasn't going to be possible anymore. And so we really leaned into our technology, and I have to just give Neil Wentel a little shout out. He's our director of operations and also our technology guru in the office, and he works very closely with our staff. Brittany Miller runs our Facebook Lives. Maureen Mills does a lot of our work behind the scenes on our website. So we had to really look at it. I think our strategy was, training through this type of a format, outreach. We use social media live events and some different things. And then we also really wanted to make our website be able to capture all of this new and changing information that was coming out, because that was
Yeah.
probably more challenging than just being in your house. For me, being in my house was that it was difficult to keep up with all of the news coming out, all the changes coming out. I think anybody that is expecting to start the school year, or who has already started the school year with their child, could probably relate to things changing quickly, even from day to day. So we did our best to work really closely with the Arizona Department of Education, with the Division of Developmental Disabilities, with our other state agency partners, and also community partners, um, to be responsive as much as we could to the COVID pandemic. One of the things that I'm going to not let you ask that next question, Jen, because I want to get this one. One of the things that we saw in March was that our phones kind of stopped ringing.
Hmm.
They didn't stop ringing, but they stopped ringing as much for about a week. And we were all, as a staff, also converting to working from home. And so we got together and we just we said, we got to figure out what's going on. And so we went back through our database. We started making calls to families. How are things going? What do you need? How can we help? So that was kind of our strategy in March and April, was instead of waiting for calls to come in, Raising Special Kids turned that around and made the calls out to connect with families.
Yeah. And that was well received and helpful.
I believe so. We heard from a lot of families things that we don't typically hear a lot about. Unemployment, homelessness, basic needs, food, rent. It became very real. Well, it never was unreal, but the gravity of the situation through those calls going out, and then the calls that were coming in that were much more basic needs focused. People weren't worried about school at that point in March.
Mm-hmm.
People weren't worried about, the service. They were, in general, folks were worried about food, clothing, shelter. And so that's what we did. We really tried to, again, make our resources relevant in the time of pandemic. Make sure that our website was easy to access. We made a slight change to our website during this time. Well, actually, it probably looks like a drastic change, but it was a change. We're working on redesigning our website right now, but we needed something that could be accessible and easy to navigate. And so Neil would probably correct me, but I believe it was in early April. We made a kind of a behind the scenes switch to our website. It looks different if you're looking at it from a desktop computer now.
Okay. Now, interesting. Yeah, Neil is the bomb. I know that. He's so good. So what about now? Now the calls, are they more more focused on what you're used to, or what's that look like?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think after the initial few weeks, things started picking up again as they would. I think as people maybe started settling into a routine, able to focus on distance learning, trying to figure out distance learning, I think was challenging. So a lot of what we did in April and May was put together curriculum and resources around distance learning and online education. And so those are two different things also. Distance learning doesn't necessarily mean online. It can, but so helping families kind of understand, what that could all look like. But most importantly, in Arizona, a lot of those decisions were left up to individual school districts. So answers were really in communication with school districts. Now, August, a lot of, nothing has gone back to normal, but we are getting a lot of calls about, how do we, navigate this new reality. Really, I think in March and in April, I didn't think we would still be here in August.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's been 2020 has been something. I know.
Sure has.
The protests also happening during that time period, obviously with George Floyd's death and the country's response to looking inward at that, the systemic racism that we face. I'm wondering, Raising Special Kids is a organization that serves families. How's that impacted all you?
Yeah, thank you for asking. We were asked, what is Raising Special Kids doing about systemic racism and discrimination, and not only by our constituency, but also by advocacy organizations. And it gave us the opportunity to really look at ourselves and commit to looking at ourselves. The one thing I think we didn't want to do was to maybe hold a training and then, or maybe a couple of trainings and then kind of have that all fall off. So, we worked, well, Jen, you and I, you and I worked together and with some other staff and parent leaders to develop an inclusion and diversity task force to really look at, how Raising Special Kids provides its programs and services, and making sure that those programs and services are accessible to Arizona, to people of color, to the Black community, to the Native American community, so that families can receive information the way they want to receive it and the way that they deserve to receive it.
Right.
So we really wanted it to become, and I think as an organization, we do have core values and beliefs. We serve families in all forms, and we celebrate diversity. This takes that a little bit further and makes it really a working part of not only our staff but our board, our leadership, and our parent leader corps, our volunteer corps as well. Right.
Well, thank you for that. Yeah, that's I appreciate that. So we have just a few minutes left because it is 12:55. Happy to take any questions that anyone might have. I don't have any in the Q&A right now, so we'll see if any come up. In the meantime, I want to ask you a fun parting question.
Okay.
All right. So tell me something, I don't know, surprising or silly about you.
Yeah. Well, I used to play guitar in a funk band with some old friends from high school, and it was just one of those kind of like guys in your 20s, getting together and playing music. And we did a couple of shows at some bars in Portland, and it was a lot of fun. And then I stopped playing for a long time, and in about probably the last 3 years, my son really loves music, and I just picked up my guitar again, and we started doing little things. And he made up a song about his teacher, Mr. Anway. So we have a Mr. Anway's class song. So that's one of the things that I do for fun, and that he likes.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I did not know that. I did not know that about you. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So funk, like what kind? Did you do covers or did you write your own music?
No, it was all originals.
Whoa.
And
Oh my
so
gosh.
it was, well, because I hooked up with a couple of friends that they kind of had been doing their own thing, and I was playing a little bit of guitar, and so they, you know, kind of invited me to do a little bit of guitar on what they were doing, and then it just kind of evolved from there. So it kind of evolved into a live band rap slash funk music genre. So
Okay, our next event, whether it's on Zoom or something, I'm going to expect you to play, right? For at our board meeting. It's
okay,
going to have to happen.
I'll play Mr. Anway's class song.
I love it.
Yeah, that's one we've gotten to practice a lot.
Awesome. Um, so I don't have any questions for you. I guess we've
Okay.
answered all of them. We are hearing from people. Thank you so much for the information. Thanks for
Sure.
being here. I really appreciate you being here. I always appreciate a conversation with you. It's a good time. And so I have one question. I'm sorry. One thing came up. So, thank you. I too experienced difficulties with getting assistance for my child. Be assertive, don't give up. I love that. I would call ahead of time, stop by their office instead of waiting for the snail mail, pick up the packet and fill it out right then, she says. I love that. Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. Agreed. Yeah, Jen, I appreciate you too. Thanks for having me on and really kind of giving an opportunity to have it seemed more like a conversation than an interview. So it was great. It's always great talking to you.
It's always good talking to you as well. And Tamara says, thank you. She does not feel as alone anymore. And so that warms my heart, right?
Yes, that does. And if, you know, if there's somebody there that can put 602-242-4366 into the chat, 602-242-4366.
602-242
4366.
4366.
Yeah. And
That
just
is
tell Jessica that Chris told you to call.
all right. I will put that in right now. Okay, so everybody has the number. If you need anything, we're here.
Yes, we are.
All right, thank you,
Yeah.
Chris. Have a good
All right,
rest of your
Jen.
day. Thanks,
Thanks, Jen.
everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.